This is part two of Photoshop. Picking up where we left off. We created a layer um, for the view part of this window, and I realized we made a couple of mistakes. So I'm back in Photoshop. I'm going to double clicking the hand recenters the image, by the way. And I realized the selection was slightly amiss. When I select load selection, and I select the channel view, I notice there's a little area here that doesn't belong. Right, so I can, holding down the Alt key, I can select an area to subtract. Right, then I'm going to go back into select, save selection, and call it view again. Replace it. Okay. I'm also going to delete the layers I made before. Okay. And talk a little more about some of the image. What we need here is a line drawing. It's a bit clearer and doesn't have all these wavy uh, the waves that were picked up by the scanner when I scanned the trace paper, right? So one of the things we would want to do with this background layer, let's deselect, Control D, deselect the background layer, is adjust the brightness and contrast. So I'm going to basically make it much brighter. It'll hopefully get rid of some of that waviness, so we have a straight line. And then there's a place where, see, I don't want that. I'm going to edit. Remember, whenever you're drawing on a layer, you're drawing destructively, which means you're modifying that layer. So keep that in mind, even though you don't know much about layers quite yet. I'm going to select the line tool and draw into this. Anywhere where I think, okay, now I'm going to merge these two layers. So now when I choose the magic wand, it stays within that selection, right? Because the line completed that shape. So we might as well continue saving selections here. Remember, we identified these parts of the drawing. View, we have saved. This is going to be wall. Select save selection and call this wall. Let's select this magic wand again. Well, forgot I had the horizon line in there. Let's call this wall 2. Why not? We could make that 2 different colors or 2 different material finishes, whatever you like. Select load selection Save selection. Wall, base, bottom, wainscoting, whatever you want to call it. Everybody knows what wainscot is. Oop, that's no good. Ceiling is good. So the reason we got that weirdness is that that line is incomplete there. So let's select save selection, ceiling. And finally, Control D, deselect. Okay, we can't select the floor unless we refine the drawing here. So I need to go here and use the line tool again. We'll just make it easy. I'm going to draw a line all the way across and merge those two layers. Now when I use the selection tool, I get the floor. Okay? It's not very difficult, but you gotta move carefully and slowly. That little animation around the selection is generally known in Photoshop as marching ants. I think of a bunch of little ants marching. Save selection, floor. Double click the hand to recenter the drawing, Control D, deselect. Now we want to show you something about what we've done, where Photoshop keeps selections. If I click this layer, this menu with layers shows me also what are called channels. Okay? These selections are saved in the channel layer. So if I select view, wall, wall bottom, ceiling, floor, those are all saved. Those are the components of my drawing, right? I mean, they're drawings in themselves. I think they're very beautiful. But those are essentially... Imagine you're looking at a magazine and there's a room or an image that you want to use. Sorry about that. So while I was recording, I saved an edit of the previous video and it started playing. Okay, if I go back to layers, right, it gives me this temporary sepia colored highlight, and if I click it elsewhere, or where am I now? I'm not sure why I can't get back to background. I have to click on the image. Sorry, I need to double click. Sorry about that. Okay, so channels are the individual selections that I just made, and then go back to layers, double click, and it goes back to it. I can draw into now what I want to do. Remember, we talked about the different parts of the drawing. What I want to do is create a layer for each part of the drawing I want to draw into. That allows me to draw. Now, the background layer is the drawing itself. If I can't hide that, right? I can duplicate it. Okay. Let's create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. I'm going to call this one view, this one ceiling, this one wall top, this one wall bottom, and this one floor. Does that cover all of them? I think so. View, wall, wall bottom, ceiling, floor. Okay, everything in our drawing right. The notion of active layer is simply which layer is selected. Whatever layer is selected, you see I'm clicking the mouse here, is a layer that I'm going to draw on. When you paste into Photoshop, Photoshop automatically creates a layer for that pasted element. So I don't want to confuse that with drawing into a layer, but I do want to sort of clarify that if I wanted to draw simply into view, what I would normally do is load the selection called view. Let's go to the internet and find Boston skyline. Save image as Boston. No, that's not what I want. That's not the file type that I want. I'm looking for something fairly orthogonal and a little high quality, that is a large number of pixel dimensions. Oh, they're always selling you something, aren't they? I don't want to. It seems you can't go to the internet and simply find an image. Download JPEG. Let's see what that looks like. That's a little too small. I'm going to go back to the image I originally selected. Copy. Even though I have view selected, if I tell Photoshop to paste into, paste special, paste into. It's going to place the image there. If I select this, edit, see, enlarge that image, scale it. See what it does. So I'm looking through the window, really. Conceivably, that could be my background. Okay. Photoshop, when you paste into, creates its own layer. So I may want to call that Beacon Hill. I could also select, right, if I have view, the view layer selected, and load again that view, select, load again, select that selection, and then select the color, foreground color, and tell Photoshop to fill, edit fill, right, using the foreground color. It just draws into only the view layer. So I want to make sure that we understand how the layers work, because pasting creates its own layer, but you can control your drawing and then control deselect, right? So I could turn off and on visibility of that view. Let's say I wanted to draw into the floor and nothing else. I would select the floor layer. It's separate from the floor selection. Load selection. It defaults to a transparency for the layer itself. So we have to go to our selections. Select floor, right? And I can fill that with not only a color, but a pattern. So if I want to fill the floor with wood, this is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but materials bank is where we all want to get our swatches, flooring. And say I wanted to use this stuff. Save image as whatever, floor sample. I'm going to go to Photoshop and open that. File, open, floor sample. And watch what I can do here. If I select all this, I can tell Photoshop that I want to edit, define pattern. So instead of edit, it allows me to modify something, right? Edit, that's what edit does. It can also define a pattern with which I can draw, and it will take its name from a file if that's the source of it. And this, so that pattern that I created, it is persistent from across sessions, so I can use it in this other file. If I wanted to fill right? My floor layer is selected, the area, and I want to select a pattern. I can find that floor sample there. And that's what it does. Now, because I've demonstrated the basic principles, I think you guys can figure out, all right, if you did that with the floor, I can do that with the ceiling, I can do that with the bottom part of the wall, with the top part of the wall. So let's see what we can do with that.